Welcome everybody to Living in Green Bay. My name is Dillon and I'm here with our guest Andrew today.
Hey, wait a second. This is my show. Hey guys, welcome to Living in Green Bay. My name's Andrew Geiwitz and this is my guest, Dillon. And we're talking about how you can build wealth in real estate while living in Green Bay.
As you know, Andrew is your local real estate professional, and I work as a financial planner, run a firm based out of Arizona. But just before we get started, we want to remind everyone, everything that you hear here is not tax, legal, or investment advice. This is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only.
If you feel like you know Dillon already, it's because of the video that I'm putting somewhere up here in the corner of the screen. We talked about things you'll miss when you move away from Green Bay. So I lured Dillon back to Green Bay by getting him to buy a house here and spend his summers here because he's super cool like that.
Well, I mean, there were so many things that I missed about Green Bay. I had to come and visit a little bit.
Exactly. So I'm sure you're going to be hitting the Zip and Pippin.
Yep.
What else? What are the things on your list?
I mean, Bay Beach, you know, the whole thing there. We've already had some spotted cow, right? There's just so many things to take in. I know we're going to the Green Bay Farmers Market later today.
Yes, okay. So anyway, watch that video, but don't do it until we're done with this one. What are we talking about today?
Well, we're going to talk about building wealth in real estate. And the reason I thought this would be a good idea is because Andrew, as you know, is your local realtor here in the Green Bay area. And I am a financial planner with Modern Wealth, registered investment advisor. So we are coming at this with slightly different perspectives, right?
Yes.
You know, the stereotype is that financial planners and advisors hate real estate and they want to lure people away from it.
Yep.
I mean, it's true, right?
Yeah.
That's usually what it is, and it's because they can't bill you on the real estate that you own. All right, so we're going to jump into it. We have a few questions here. We're just going to see where it takes us with this conversation. So, Andrew, first question that I know is on a lot of people's mind. When is real estate an investment, and when is it not?
You know, coming, I think, from the primary residence part specifically, where you live in your house for however long, and you get appreciation, so you get some wealth building that way, but it's not easy to get out, like real quickly. So
it's locked up.
Yeah, it's trapped. And that's where I think the big rub comes, that it's like, well, what am I doing with this if I'm getting nothing back for 30 years? Although the financial sector is figuring out a lot of great ways to kind of milk that money back out of your house without selling it. So that's where I'd say it's not that clear cut.
Yeah, it's interesting, and especially the point you made about the wealth being locked up inside of your property. That's the same with business equity, but no one would dare say your business is not an investment. Going back to the question, when is it an investment?
I'd feel the best saying that real estate's an investment when it's giving me consistent returns that are coming back to me, not just in the equity of the house, and that I can actually kind of use that to build and grow and invest in more.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there has to be a level of intentionality to it as well, right? If you're going into it knowing this is an investment, here's my metrics for success, and here's how I'm going to get out of the investment.
Yep.
That's one thing, right? And so I would even say your primary residence is absolutely not an investment for the simple reason that you have to live somewhere no matter what, right? And if your house appreciates in value, that's just a cherry on top, because the real benefit you're getting is stability. You're having a place that you can call home, that you can make it your own, and that you know the payments aren't going to go up too much.
Couple of ways people try to break that. The term that we've heard lately, house hacking, that's one of the ways. Again, it's all gray, guys. So you could have a primary residence, qualify for that type of lending, which is awesome, and still maybe rent out a room, or maybe you buy something less than 4 units, so it could still qualify for residential, you know, standard financing, and then get return back while still living. So there are ways to get like both.
But that comes back to intentionality, right? If you go into it knowing that's what your plan is, then that's what you're going to do. That's very different than saying this is home. And I think where a lot of this idea comes from your perspective, right, you have your buyers relocating. From my perspective, we have Californians invading Arizona. And it's just this idea of, well, mom and dad bought this house back in the 70s, and now it's 20x'd in value. Clearly, it was the best investment they ever chose.
Yeah, that's, every seller feels really good about being an investor right now. So I think historically, you're talking at, theoretically, you would have got more money if you just put it in the S&P 500.
But you still have to live somewhere.
But you have to live somewhere. So you're gonna do both, most likely. That's the way you got to do it.
Yeah.
Some people will just rent. Good for them, and they'll figure out, they're getting more returns on their money other places.
But that has its own benefits, right? Because when you're renting, you have flexibility. You can pick up and move at any point. And maybe you are putting your money in other places, right? So there's always an opportunity cost at play.
Yep.
All right, so that pretty well answered the first question. So the second question we have here is, what advantages does real estate offer that other investments don't?
Yes, I'm the son of a construction worker. I'm the son of a person who pretty much lived only in multifamily properties my whole life. So this is like it's a passion.
Yeah.
I love the idea of getting to have your hands on an asset. So when I think of the money I have in X company, I don't get to make those decisions on a day-to-day basis as to like what Joe, the manager, and the CEO and whatever are doing. Whereas in real estate, I can be very hands-on. I think, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I'm definitely predisposed to wanting control. Like, I want control.
As a dad,
as a real estate agent who represents clients, like, I want to get you from point A to point B. Like, I'm listening to you and I'm navigating with you, but I know the waters and I want to get you there. Like with real estate, in my example growing up, we lived in multifamily property. It was mostly 2-unit multifamily property. My dad was in a construction-based industry, so work can be on and off. One of the greatest blessings of real estate in that regard was we had an income from that rental property that paid for the mortgage. So in a bad time, seasonally or whatever over the years, the real estate protected us because it gave us that consistent pay to make payments on the mortgage and go from there. And you have to know that, like, that was a pretty minimal investment strategy, but it still like took care of you.
Right.
So I liked that again, with intentionality, they went into that, did it that way. There's so many ways people could do that, but I can't just buy a home. I'm like, well, we're going to need it to be, coming in under market value so that we're like basically instantly getting some equity, bump right there. And then I need like at least like X amount of different ways that I could improve it day one to build more wealth into it, where my dollars I put in are getting a return already. So that's what I think is like one of the unique pieces of real estate as an investment, is you can get so much control over it.
I'm surprised you didn't say what I think is the biggest benefit of real estate. That's leverage.
Sure.
Right? With, let's use some basic math. With $25,000, you can now buy a $100,000 house.
Yes.
I can't have $25,000 and buy $100,000 of stock.
Yes. Other people's money.
OPM.
OPM. That is awesome. You can do that sometimes in stocks, right?
It's a
I've
little
heard
tricky.
some people can.
It's a little tricky. Grant Cardone is very popular for saying this, is that you can't go to Bank of America and take out a loan to buy Bank of America stock because they tell you it's too risky to do that. But they'll gladly give you a few $1 million to buy real estate. But with the leverage, right, you were talking about house hacking, right? And that's something where people can get started for very, very minimal. I'm talking less than $10,000. And if everything goes their way, right, because there's some luck involved, fast forward 20 years, now they've got this real estate empire, and how much came out of pocket?
Yeah, it could
very, very
could
little.
be almost nothing.
Yeah.
Shop the right way, and you take advantage of the moments in your real estate journey where there are perks involved, i.e. first-time home buying. Maybe you have bought real estate and then you get married, or your income changes because you add another person or whatever. Those moments, you don't want to miss them. But if you want to, you can use those levers with timing and really get a sweet spot. And then once you have the asset, they'll even lend more because you have this extra asset that they can trust and say, well, if we need to get money back from them, they've got other property already. So
there's collateral.
Yeah, collateral, exactly. So it just like builds on itself then.
All right, so this next one, this is a question that I actually get asked a lot, especially being in Arizona in the Phoenix market. Everyone and their brother is a real estate agent, and everyone and their uncle is an aspiring real estate investor, right? Because there's so much opportunity there, and there's so much appreciation that everyone wants to move there, right? So the question that
I did help someone move from Arizona to Green Bay this year, so.
Okay, one. So the question that people ask me in my role is, how much of my wealth should be in real estate?
Again, I want control, so I would lean more towards heavier on the real estate side. If I put my money there and then I get extra money on top of it, I think I could just grow it more.
Sure. Okay. So
What are you seeing? What are you
yeah,
thinking?
so how I normally think of it is I explain it to clients like this. There's only 3 things you can own as an investment. Broadly speaking, 3 categories. There's real property, so that would include real estate, right? But that could also be a physical asset that you have, like a trailer or a camper or something, right? That has value. Paper, which would be cash, it would be stocks, it would be bonds, mutual funds, paper investments, and then a business, right? And I challenge someone to name a different investment that doesn't fall in those 3 categories. So if we think in those 3 terms, I can only put my money in 3 places. I want to have some sort of balance, not perfect balance, but participation in each one, because they're all going to have their benefits that the others don't. And so when it comes to real estate specifically, the way to think about it is how much of your expertise is in real estate compared to how much is in business or is in paper investments. And then you should probably have your wealth pretty closely resemble that expertise, right? So if someone says, man, 80% of my knowledge is about real estate and maybe 20% is about the stock market, well, then it's not crazy. It's not crazy to say, let's have close to the majority of your wealth in real property, not forgetting about those other 2. Maybe you're going to develop a business, turn it into syndication, whatever you want to do, and now you're participating in all 3. But if you have your expertise in one area, don't forego that, right? Double down on that almost. Not at the expense, though, of having diversification across where your money is.
I would lean very heavily that way.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Joe Schmo, he might accidentally have 30, 40, 50% of his wealth in real estate, but that probably doesn't match his expertise. And that's where you can get into problems, like what you said earlier about your wealth being locked up, right? The guy who says, I'm just going to make my mortgage payments every single month for 30 years, and then I've got my house, but then he has nothing else to show for it. I mean, good job. You've got your paid off house, but you have very few options now. So everything, I think, is going back to intentionality.
It has to. That's the way to do it.
Now, this one is a little related to that last question. And again, it's something that pops up in my context an awful lot. So I'm curious to hear your experience is, can real estate be part of my retirement plan?
One of the areas that I've heard people taking advantage of the real estate market is in buying mom and pop rental properties from old owners that are tired of dealing with all of the work. So sometimes I think about that and go, well, maybe what we're seeing there is it's not that great at the end of the story, in the retirement side of it, to have the physical asset. So if you owned it up till that point and you're cashing out, you're still getting the money for whatever your retirement journey is going to be. You use it in different ways throughout the time that you're, holding it, and you know that it's going to cash out for retirement someday. And then if you still want to keep it exposed to real estate without the hands-on, you could either hire, a property management company to take over the day-to-day work of it, or sell it and then move it into some sort of real estate stock or something like that.
So now you're moving to paper.
Yeah, you're moving to paper, but you keep that paper in the industry of real estate so that, if you wanted to keep it in real estate.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think there's definitely a critical mass, right? If you have your primary residence and then one rental property, that's not really going to take you far as retirement goes.
Not on its own, no.
No, if you've got 10 units or 10 duplexes or something, now you're getting to a critical mass where you don't actively have to do anything. I've had a lot of conversations with people where that has been their strategy. They build up this real estate footprint. They might have 4 properties. The cash flow is great, but they're doing it all themselves. Really, they created a job for themselves.
They did.
And eventually, you get to be 75 and you'd rather be playing with the grandkids than fixing a toilet.
Yes.
So then what are you left with doing? You don't have enough cash flow to hire that property manager. You have to sell it. Now you are taking all of that wealth, you're unlocking it, and you have to do something else with it, right? You can either go buy more real estate, which just continues the problem.
Yeah.
Probably not going to start a business at that point of life.
Yep.
So then you're left with putting it into the paper, right? And so that's what I'm talking about, balance across three.
Yep.
And so as a way to get to retirement, lots of people can do that, right? I've seen that many times. In retirement, that's where it really is that tipping point. So it is an interesting, because we never want to exclude real estate, right? Because it has so many benefits.
No, don't exclude it. No.
But I personally, right, I wouldn't tell someone bank on the real estate for your retirement unless you own a 70-unit apartment building. This is a little more not with a solid answer, right? More gray space. What does diversification look like in real estate?
Well, you've got your home, your investment properties. You could go commercial. You could buy land, developing. That's another way you could invest. Also flipping. And then there's the different like portfolio type. And you saw the disclaimer that this isn't tax advice or anything like that at the beginning. Depreciation on real estate is a huge advantage for people. They can depreciate out their, stuff and minimize their tax burdens because of it. And so like the costs with owning real estate become an advantage too. So that's a whole other area that people take advantage of it that way too.
Yeah, I've seen situations where people will buy a rundown property specifically so they can claim the depreciation to offset something else that they have going on in their portfolio.
Yeah, so talk to the right tax advisor on those things, and they can help you come up with a awesome system. Real estate gives you advantages on like multiple fronts, and that's why people are attracted to it.
What about location?
Oh yeah, location.
Right? If someone has their primary and a higher cost of living, maybe they want to start building a portfolio in a place with lower cost of living.
I have people moving to Green Bay, which is a relatively affordable cost of living on a national scale. We're usually just under like the median. So, more affordable than 50% or more of the places in this country, which is fantastic. But quality of life is rated really high. And with the remote work developments of, the last 5 years or however long, people are keeping the LA job and living in GB.
Yeah.
Like that's unfair. Like it's an amazing, awesome opportunity. I will help you move here and, make that your wonderful story as well.
Yeah, you could also take seasonality into consideration. So like there's a lot of immigration to the United States.
Yeah.
Typically the people who are coming to the States are coming from warm climates. Where are they settling? Places with warm climates, right? So there's a lot of factors that you have to put into play here.
Yep. Green Bay would not qualify under warm climates. So we'll help the warm climate people who are feeling a little too crowded, governmentally, financially, physically crowded, move to Green Bay and spread out. Yeah,
so it's important to, I think, recognize, even when it comes to real estate, which a lot of people think is almost a monolith, it's just one thing.
Yeah.
Right? There's so much variety within it. I have a friend back in Arizona who's talking about buying tax liens.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Which is a very, I guess you could say, niche way of investing in real estate. The world is as big as you want it to be, I guess you could say.
Go figure.
Go figure. Just a couple of questions left, and these ones that probably going to have quick answers, but how can I go about financing real estate?
You could use your own money. You could find private money. You could use, your typical bank type of financing. You could do like an owner financing. I've seen people do it too with crypto.
Well, those are the ones that people typically think of, right? So in my context, when people have their portfolios, one thing that we often talk about is a securities-backed line of credit, or an SB lock.
Yeah.
So now it's starting to look a little similar to real estate, right? Where you can actually get a loan using your portfolio as a collateral. Now, there's a lot of considerations that go into that, but I actually recently helped a couple who are clients do just that so they could go and acquire an investment property, right?
Yep.
And the same thing with them. We were talking about where's your expertise, Well, in that particular case, their expertise was way more in real estate, but their wealth was way heavily tilted towards paper investments. And even though I make less money from it, I said, well, let's start to get this a little more in line with what you know and what you guys can feel comfortable with, right? So there's always a way to find financing.
Was the question for them then, how do we get that money, or how do we use that money we have invested there to get it over into real estate without like having to sell it directly? Is that
That's exactly it, right? So easy math, right? Let's say we have $200,000 in your stock portfolio. You can get a securities-backed line of credit up to 70% of that value, right? Now you got to qualify, right? You got to work with the right lender and everything. But what that lets you do is keep your portfolio invested. So in theory, right, the market goes up, not guaranteed, but it typically goes up. So your portfolio will continue to increase in value, but the loan amount stays the same and even decreases as you're making payments. So now you have that other arbitrage going on. And now, if you made a good investment, that loan is generating more income from the rental property that you have. Right?
Starts to get dangerous, baby. You're getting some serious, like, double up for your money.
What are the risks with real estate investing or building your wealth through real estate?
Over leveraging. Like, I think that's like one of the critical ones is you figured out the cool system, but you weren't responsible. And you over leveraged yourself, and there are fluctuations in the market, and you are not in a position to survive those. And so then you're forced to sell low, you lose money, it all sucks. Like, you know, if you had other things leveraged against that, now those are, you know, in flux, and it can all come crashing down. Some of it is not in your control, like natural disasters. I mean, you have insurance and whatnot, but those things are costly. You know, the bad tenants.
The 3 T's: toilets, termites, and tenants.
Yep, there you go. Yep, those will do you. You get in with the, you know, wrong partners, and things go south there. There's risk.
How about governmental risk? So here in Green Bay, the Packers are going to host the draft in 2025. And a lot of people are saying, I want to make some change off of this.
Local government. Okay. Municipality to municipality, the rules are going to be different, and the rules can change.
Right.
That's the crazy thing there. The government is a partner in your real estate, whether you like it or not. They are a part of the story. So you want to do your due diligence to know what you can and can't do before you make that investment, and then the risk there is, even if you do that, it could still change.
Right, and I think of a lot of the more sleepy towns in Arizona are very popular for a short-term rental, whether that's an Airbnb or a VRBO or something. But the municipalities have started over the years changing that to outlaw short-term rentals, where you have to be signed for at least a 30-day stay, right? So now it gets to more either medium-term or long-term. And people went in and purchased a lot of properties expecting the rules would never change.
Yep. And so that may affect you then on the other end if you need to then sell it. Well, you're not going to get the same interest that you had when it had these different ways of cash flowing. Now it's just like a house. So that's a great one to bring up.
Yeah, and there's, I think, one more risk that we didn't touch on yet, and that's if you have bad financing or financing that falls through. So I think of maybe if someone has a hard money loan, and they have their timetable, right? They know, okay, I'm going to be able to pay off this loan in 45 days. Well, day 46 rolls around, they can't do it. Now the money is due back, and there's just this whole crunch. So Andrew, how can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, all of my information's in the description below this video. You can reach me at livingingreenbay.com. The button to connect with me is literally right in the middle of the page when you load it up, because I help people move to and all around the Green Bay area all the time. How about you, Dillon? Where can people find you? Where are you working?
Yeah, so my firm works nationwide, so we have clients in 14 states currently. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find probably a link in the description below.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I've never been able to say that. That was fun.
You're in the description below, my man.
As well, you can check out our website, mymodernwealth.com.
Thanks for watching Living in Green Bay, everybody. We look forward to hearing your investing journeys as they go and being a part of them if you let us. So we'll see you guys on another video soon.